The Friday further taught us this important question. What was the essential difference between the expression of faith by Abraham and by Thomas? What can we learn from their stories? Let's begin with Abraham, often called the father of faith. In Genesis chapter 12, God called Abraham to leave his homeland to go to a place he did not know. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place which he would receive as an inheritance. And he went out not knowing where he was going. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 8. Later, in Genesis chapter 22, God tested Abraham by asking him to sacrifice his son Isaac. Despite the immense emotional burden, Abraham trusted God's promise that through Isaac, his descendant will be named. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 19 tells us that Abraham concluded that God was able to raise him up even from the dead. His faith didn't require an immediate demonstration. He trusted God's character and promises, even when circumstances seemed contradictory. Now let's consider Thomas, one of Jesus' 12 disciples. After Jesus' resurrection, he appeared to other disciples when Thomas was absent. When told about this, Thomas responded, "Unless I see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hands into his side, I will not believe." Thomas's faith was conditional. He required a physical demonstration before he would believe. When Jesus appeared again, he invited Thomas to touch his wounds. Then he said to him, "Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not yet seen and yet believe." What can we learn from this story? Number one, trust beyond sight. Abraham teaches us that the trust God's promises even when we cannot see how they will unfold. True faith doesn't rely solely on physical evidence, but rests on God's unchanging character. Number two, avoid certain condition. Thomas's experience warns us against placing condition on our faith. While God may generously meet us where we are, as he did with Thomas, he calls us to a deeper faith that believes without seeing. Number three, blessed are the believers. Jesus' words reminds us that there is a special blessing for those who believe without seeing. This encounter tells us to develop faith that trusts in God's word and promises even when physical demonstration is absent, because the word and the character of God is enough evidence for us. Let us strive to cultivate a faith like Abraham, one that trusts God's promises and obey his command even when we cannot have all the answers. May we remember Jesus' blessing. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. And that is a great way to end our lesson this week. Thank you for studying with me. It has been a blessing. Happy Sabbath when it comes. Pastor Bob is back next week with lesson number 8. God bless you, and we will see you next week.